Hi, my name's Dan Stair of Daniel's Training Services, and I'm here on the street with what I'd hope to identify as a potential violation of federal and state regulations. So first off, I am the owner of Daniel's Training Services, and I provide training and consulting on federal and state regulations for the management of waste, hazardous waste, used oil, and as we're going to talk here today, universal waste. So the purpose of this video is to identify a potential violation of the regulations and talk a little bit more about universal waste and how it should be managed. So first off, what is a universal waste? A universal waste is found in the federal regulations of the US EPA. So in Title 40 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 273, the EPA identifies what they call universal waste. And universal wastes are generated everywhere by everybody. So big businesses, small businesses, everybody generates universal waste. The regulations of the Illinois EPA, because I happen to be here in Freeport, Illinois, the regulations of the Illinois EPA also identify universal waste. And as luck would have it, Illinois adopts the same 4 universal wastes that the EPA does. So the EPA has 4 universal wastes, and the Illinois EPA has 4 universal wastes. So the 4 federal and state universal wastes are batteries and recalled or canceled pesticides and mercury containing equipment, and the last one is this, lamps. So this is one form of a lamp that can be managed as a universal waste. Now the main thing about universal waste is they must first be a hazardous waste. So this lamp at disposal would be a hazardous waste because it contains mercury. Now we've got these green cap fluorescents here, and you might think, oh okay, this one doesn't have any mercury, right? It's got the green cap, that means everything's cool, right? Well, not necessarily so. Many, I don't know about this one specifically, but many of these green cap lamps actually have mercury in them, and probably not going to be able to zoom in on it here, but I'm just noticing there is the elemental symbol for mercury on this lamp. It's got Hg for mercury, which means this lamp does contain mercury. So just because it's got a green cap doesn't mean it's okay to throw in the trash like has been done here. The idea is that these contain mercury, and they would then be a hazardous waste. But the universal waste regulations give you an option to manage them at a lower level of regulation as a universal waste instead of a hazardous waste. I've got a video where I explain the universal waste more in detail, and I'll have a link to that at the conclusion of this video and in the description. So we've got universal waste, right, identified by the feds and the state. And then there are rules for how you manage that universal waste. Now, what are the applicability of these regulations? Well, they apply to businesses, big and small. The regulations for universal waste apply to any waste that are generated by, for, or on behalf of a business, unless there's an exclusion. Now, there's 2 different kinds of exclusions that might apply here. One is the household hazardous waste exclusion. So if your hazardous waste or your universal waste is coming from your home, you're not subject to federal and state regulations. There's another exclusion for a conditionally exempt small quantity generator, or what's now known as the very small quantity generator. And that's probably the case here. This trash, this garbage, probably came from a business that is a very small quantity generator. So technically they're not subject to the full regulations as other waste generators are, but this still is not a good idea, putting it out with the trash. As a matter of fact, in Illinois, from their website, the Illinois EPA says that in Illinois, commercial and industrial facilities may follow the universal waste rule, or they may follow the hazardous waste requirements for handling, storage, treatment, and disposal. You must choose one of these options. So again, Illinois encourages either managing as a hazardous waste or as a universal waste, and neither allow for this. Even households, this again from the Illinois EPA website, Households may dispose of their used lamps as municipal waste. So a household could do this, could put their lamps in the trash. However, the Illinois EPA strongly encourages households to take their used lamps to a household hazardous waste collection site or to a recycler that they identify. So again, even in your home, when you might throw these in the trash, that's not a good idea. I'm going to explain why in just a little bit. So, what is the potential violation? Well, if you're going to manage your waste as a universal waste, your lamps must be managed in a way to prevent breakage. Well, that's not being done here. These could easily be broken. They should be in a closed container. That's not being done here. The closed container should be labeled with the words universal waste lamps and the date of initial accumulation, and you've got 1 year of on-site accumulation before you got to get that universal waste off-site. And then there are requirements to inform your employees of proper handling and spill cleanup and emergency response and whatever may be applicable there. So there's all those requirements that go with managing your waste as a universal waste. I can see clearly some aren't being done here, and I'm going to assume the others aren't as well. Okay, so why does it matter? Why does it matter that we properly manage, in this case, used lamps properly? Well, again, reading from the Illinois EPA website, improper handling or disposal of used fluorescent and high-intensity discharge lamps damage the environment. When broken, these lamps release mercury and other metals, for example, lead perhaps, or cadmium, and those damage the environment. In addition, when used lamps are collected as municipal waste, as we see being done here, and disposed in a solid waste landfill, the possibility exists that mercury that they contain may be released into the landfill's leachate, and then it may get into our drinking water, and we don't want that. So proper management of these lamps, whether you're required to by the regulations or if it's a best management practice, is a real good idea. And we want to avoid managing them in this way. So whenever possible, when you've got lamps like this, try to find a legitimate recycler, a universal waste destination facility, or if you are a household, you might be able to take it to a household collection site for disposal. If you have any questions about how to manage universal waste as a business, you can always go to your state's website, or don't hesitate to contact me with any questions you may have about the management of universal waste or hazardous waste or used oil. Thank you very much.